Hey, and welcome into the Big Ten Huddle. I'm your host, JR, and today we're giving you my takeaways, what I've learned from the Saturday of college basketball, which was just absolutely amazing, right? Fantastic day of college basketball. Really, really fun to watch all these games. Some disappointing games for many, but it was also just a lot of fun to watch as well. So please do like and subscribe. I appreciate it. Trying to get this basketball channel going more. Got a big football channel if you're into that as well, but we definitely appreciate you being here. So, number one, my first takeaway is actually the Minnesota game. So I'm going to pull that box score up here. I think Ben Johnson might be, if not the most, one of the most underrated coaches in the Big Ten, right? He made some really good coaching decisions in this game, which one game of coaching decisions doesn't make you, the most underrated coach in the Big Ten, right? But so, just what he's been able to do with this Minnesota team. This Minnesota team was scrapped in the offseason. They lost so many different guys. He was able to hold on to guys like Mike Mitchell and Dawson Garcia, but they were completely scrapped. And in this game, Ben Johnson decided to go with the bigger lineup. That meant less of Mike Mitchell Jr. and more of Frank Mitchell. Now, Frank Mitchell was somebody you hoped to get more of out of this year if you were a Minnesota fan to possibly do better. But in this game, he really showed up and he really added a lot to this team. He had 15 points, played 20 minutes for you. Mike Mitchell still had 25 minutes, but uh, Ben Johnson wasn't afraid to take him out when he was 0 for 4 from 3, 1 for 7 from the field. There was also a timeout that Ben Johnson called in this game that resulted in a 14 to 5 run after that. Like, that's just sometimes that's luck, right? Sometimes it is. But Ben Johnson is pretty doggone good with his timeouts, knowing when his team needs it, and then when his guys come out of timeouts, they generally do a pretty good job. So I think this is a piece of Ben Johnson that is going underlooked because he doesn't always have the most talented teams, and so it generally results in him being near the bottom of the Big Ten. You put this guy like the ACC or something like that, and I guarantee he's making the tournament. But he doesn't want to leave Minnesota because that's where he played, that's where he knows, right? And he wants to build up that program. In this game, they also reduced their switching, and they were more effective in their defense because of that. Now, I don't know if that's something they did just because of USC. Maybe we'll see it going forward as well, but regardless, it worked really doggone well in this game, and I felt like it was a little bit more, a little bit more natural for the defense as well. This puts Minnesota, honestly, like, you're gonna laugh at me saying this, but like, go check the standings. They're 2 games out of a top 9 seed. Like, Oregon is not guaranteed to hang on to that 9 seed right now, and Minnesota just tied themselves with a couple other teams that could possibly be up there. They set themselves up to be the second team to go undefeated in their LA swing this year. Only other team that was able to do that, Michigan, the number one team in the Big Ten right now. So, I mean, you just look at Ben Johnson, 5 wins in his last 8 games. This team looked like they were dead, but I mean, it just wasn't that way because Ben Johnson's a good coach. He knows how to get his guys motivated. And even if you give him the least talented team in the Big Ten, which I don't think they're the least talented, but one of the lesser talented teams in the Big Ten, he's still going to come in and win games. This is a USC team that had some hope, had some promise, and they just went to USC on the road and took it to him. Great win for Ben Johnson. All right, let's go to the next one here. All right, so Wisconsin beats Purdue at Purdue. And this was a game, you look at the score, 94 to 84, and you're going to say to yourself, like, wow, Purdue's defense just didn't bring it today. And while you would not be completely inaccurate, I do think Purdue played their defense in this game. I just think good offense beats good defense, right? And I hesitate to say good defense because they gave up 94 points in this game, but like, you watch the game and Purdue played their defense. Wisconsin just beat it. Like, this Wisconsin team, this game, this 94 to 84 win at Mackey says a whole lot more about Wisconsin and where they're at as a program right now and where they're at right now as a team than it does about Purdue in my mind. Like, a lot of people are going to want to come away from this game and say, Purdue, fool's gold, they stink. Listen, Purdue's still a really good team. They still got Trey Coffin-Rin. They still have Braden Smith, who Braden Smith didn't have as good of a game in this one, and that obviously contributed to it as well. But Wisconsin just beat them. They were smart. They were patient with their game plan. They were consistent in their shooting. They were able to get open looks. They were able to drive and kick. They did a wonderful job. in every single instance to exploit this Purdue defense and their vulnerabilities. The corner three in this game, the way that Purdue wants to play defense is Purdue wants to stay tethered together, right? And so when you want to stay tethered together and move as one, as a unit, which that's a lot of people's defenses, and Purdue's not doing anything crazy here, but with Purdue and the way they play their defense, that corner three is such a stretch from where you can get elsewhere. And when you have a team that has spacing like Wisconsin, it's almost impossible to defend with that defense that Purdue plays. And so when Wisconsin has the spacing they have and they're hitting their shots at the same time, you're not going to beat that team. And that's what Wisconsin came out and did in this game. I mean, I'm talking, John Tonji, all these guys, like they just had a fantastic game shooting the ball. John Tonji, 4 for 9 in this one. Max Klesmit was only 1 for 6, but he still had 17 points. Nolan Winter was 2 for 5. Janicki, the guy that came in for Kamari McGee, because Kamari McGee got ejected on a bogus call. Oh my gosh, that was a stupid call, which don't even get me started on the flopping in this game either. But, like, if you want to talk about, going against Purdue, I could show you a Fletcher Lawyer highlight. Anyway, it wouldn't be a highlight, it'd be a unlight, whatever. But just what they were able to do, and Janicki being able to come into this game fearless, like it was spectacular. Purdue can execute all they want on defense, but when Wisconsin is stretching the floor, spacing the way that they are, and they're hitting shots, like Purdue could have had, NBA level guys out there. It wouldn't have mattered with this kind of defense they were playing and what Wisconsin was able to do it. Okay, not NBA level guys, but length, like NBA level length guys. It was just a really, really good game plan from Greg Gard. And while it can be replicated, I don't know if the shooting can be replicated. 12 for 30 in this game, which isn't anything spectacular shooting, but it's good enough to keep Purdue guessing and keep Purdue worrying about that 3-point arc. And that's what Wisconsin was able to do in this game. So just super, super stoked for Wisconsin. If they can continue to hit shots like this, if they can continue to space the floor, take advantage of teams' defense and what they do and what they play, I really, really like this team moving forward. Number 3 is that, like, Illinois is not Final Four good. Like, I'm sorry, Illinois fans. I want this program to be good. I'm somebody that unapologetically roots for Illinois, and I get, like, as a Big Ten podcaster, I probably shouldn't root for certain teams, but I root for everybody in the Big Ten. But there's something about this Illinois program and what it's been doing lately that I do kind of root for them, and I do want to see them do well. But this Illinois team is not Final Four good. In late January, Brad Underwood, after a Northwestern game or Northwestern win, said that this team was Final Four good when they are completely healthy. Well, they're completely healthy right now, and you got Brad Underwood playing 6 guys, pretty much. You got Dre Gibbs Lawhorn playing, 3-4 minutes in this game. Trey White, where was he? I mean, Illinois, to end this game, to close it out, the final 8.5 minutes, they had 0 field goals. 0 field goals to end this game. I think the last one they made was a Jaconis, field goal with like 8:29 left or something like that. Absolutely inexcusable. If you are a Final Four good team, yeah, you might go on a bad stretch to end a game. You don't go on 8.5 minutes. My word. It just doesn't happen. Poor shot selection, bad playmaking. They didn't play together. They weren't trying to get the ball to their spots. I guess I shouldn't say they weren't trying. Like, they were definitely trying in this game. But to me, like, the players were giving all their effort. Brad Underwood just failed to adjust. Brad Underwood failed to adjust on defense, and he failed to adjust on offense to try and get his guys easy baskets. Instead, you got Kasparis Jaconis trying to jack up threes to end the game, and they're not going in. Shocker. They're not going in. They were playing right into Michigan State's hands, doing exactly what Michigan State wanted them to do. They knew they could bait them into threes, and that's what they did. Tom Izzo's too smart for that. He knows he can bait Brad Underwood into threes. He did that, and Brad Underwood fell for it. On the defensive side, Brad Underwood, he kept having his guys go into drop coverage off the off-ball screens, and it was never working for him. They continued to get the ball, get to the basket. Mike Woodson gave you the blueprint for these guys. Go under screens and force shots. Play some zone, right? Give them the 2-3 zone. Give them the 3-point arc. They can't shoot. Hold them on fast breaks. They can't shoot. But Brad Underwood didn't do that. Instead, he's playing drop coverage on off ball screens, and he's going over on screens. Guys are getting to the basket, they're kicking it out, or they're kicking it to the guy down there, and then in the game, where's the rebounding? Jackson Kohler made Morez Johnson and those guys look like wimps. Now Morez Johnson's no wimp. Morez Johnson was the MVP of this game for Illinois, but he was dead by the end of it because they played basically a 6-man rotation and they had no other rebounding opportunities other than Morez Johnson. It was a tough game for Illinois. You look at the box score, like this box score looked pretty good for most of the game. It was back and forth. And then when that goaltending call got reversed and Illinois went back to 65 points, 0 from there on out. Not only no field goals, no free throws, nothing. Like you weren't getting to the basket. It's just a complete lack of coaching by Brad Underwood. And I think the question has to be asked by Illinois fans because Brad Underwood said this team is Final Four good. And I think they are, player-wise. I don't think they are coach-wise. And that's tough. And I'm somebody that has said, like, I like Brad Underwood. I want Brad Underwood to do well. I mean, there's very few coaches I don't want to see do well in the Big Ten. But I want him to do well. But he's not adjusted, and he's not adjusting. He's not putting his players in the best situations in order to get buckets. It's just, what's he like? Either his players are just not listening to him at all, which is a whole other coaching issue, right? Or he is seriously just, he's not really changing things all that much. He's not trying to adjust to other teams. And I get that. Like certain coaches, they really get fixated on like, if we just do what we do well, then we're going to win. And I get that. And I do think there's definitely a place for that. But you also got to adjust to other teams. Like in football, if the team runs the ball 80% of the time, you're not going to go into nickel every single time. You're not going to go to dime every single time. Even though you might be best in dime, you don't do that every single time. When you're facing Michigan State, who can't shoot from 3, you can't go over on screens every single time. You can't play drop coverage and let guys get to the basket every single time. You do that on slower teams. You do that on teams that you can contest right away that are not as athletic. That's not what they did. Maybe my feelings will change on Illinois. Maybe they'll make the Elite Eight this year, and I'll be feeling completely different. But to me, this team isn't Final Four good. Brad Underwood said they are. Player-wise, they are. My takeaway, I don't think coach-wise they are. And my bonus one for you, and this one is just kind of an interesting one, and it mentions Washington, Penn State, because I didn't want to leave them out. Big Ten teams can win on the road, guys. Wisconsin wins at Mackey. Michigan State wins at Illinois. Washington wins at Penn State. Minnesota wins at USC. Like, road games aren't what they used to be in the Big Ten, apparently. We'll see if the same thing holds true on Sunday. We got Michigan going to Ohio State. They could definitely win that one. You got Nebraska going to Northwestern. They could definitely win that one. Yeah, Rutgers going to Oregon. I mean, Oregon's been blown out at home, but by better teams, so Rutgers could win that one. Not going to pick them to. And then you have Iowa going to Maryland. Yeah, Iowa's not winning that one. Maryland's too good at home. I mean, watch what they'll lose. They'll lose that now that I said that, but yeah, if you're a Big Ten team, you don't have to be as scared to go at home as you used to be. So thanks so much for watching, guys. Let me know what you thought of these games. If you guys had any takeaways, if you guys had anything you learned, if you're an Illinois fan, how you feeling about Brad Underwood? Michigan State fans, how do you feel about Michigan State? I didn't really mention you all that much, but I mean, it was a good performance by Michigan State down the stretch. Did a really good job. Jackson Kohler, like that dude. People were telling me this season that Michigan State doesn't have a front court, and I told him, I said, Jackson Kohler, you better watch out. I'm not saying he's a star or anything like that, but he sure looked like a star in this game at the end. Boxing out Morez Johnson, took advantage of it, was more physical. Now, part of that was Morez Johnson was dead tired. How many minutes did Morez Johnson play in this game? Morez Johnson played a total of 25 minutes in this game. I mean, it's not huge, but when you're basically down in the paint, banging the entire game, like 25 minutes feels more than like 25 minutes doing that. So we'll see what it's like moving forward, but you know, we'll see if Big Ten teams can go 8-0 on the road this weekend. Probably not, but we'll see. Thanks for watching, guys. I appreciate it. Do check me out over on the Big Ten Huddle podcast, the football channel over there, or you just go to the podcast feed. It's on Spotify, Apple, all those different locations, and you guys can get that stuff there too. So really appreciate you watching. Like, subscribe. If you're on podcast, leave a 5-star rating. Would really appreciate it. And have a good one. We'll see you next time.